I'm getting started on repairing the seat mount. It's 18 gauge floor pan, 18 gauge seat mount, so I just cut that piece out of there, and then that's gonna fit into there after I shape that to a fat 90 on the other side of my workstation. So clamp that in on the fat radius side, hit it with a hammer, bring it back around till it's 90, and it should fit the mount. Somebody's like, oh, well, how come you're not using the sheet metal brake up here? This little thing, it can't handle 18 gauge. Plain and simple. It can barely handle 20 gauge. 22, not so bad, but that's that. There's the piece. Got the 90 on it, ground it up, 36 grit, got the paint off. See, that fits right in there, just like that. Nice. So marked, cut that piece out, and this piece will go in that hole, but I didn't mark it. I didn't mark this edge, but now that it's cut away, I cut away the radius here, so I'll put this on something flat that'll fit right in there. Mark this edge, cut it, weld it in. All welded up, ready to grind. Ground up, cut off, plug welds are in. I ground around the area here. That fits in there about like that. So there's a couple of spots here. Got to repair here on the floor where I tore the sheet metal getting it out. Other than that, be ready to plug weld back into the floor. So plug welded, or I should say stitch welded, a bunch of these holes closed, or the new holes didn't match up to in this, and other ones were just a bit on the big side, and there was a small hole actually in the floor right here. So cleaned all that up. I think it's gonna fit just the way I want it to. I'm gonna grab my 3 Tech screws, put them back in here, here, and here. If I like it, I'll weld it in and I'll show you. All plug welded in, looks real good. Clean that up with the grinder. Now it's all ground up. I'm real happy how this seat mount turned out. I'm not going to worry about these plug welds in the middle of this trough. They should be good. I'm going to wipe this down with some lacquer thinners and then just a quick brush coat of some black trim clad, and it's good. Now, I wish I had this front seat back in when I brought that box home from down the street. So getting ready to start on the inner rocker here. I'm going to start at the back, work my way towards that new floor pan. I'm going to have to remove a little bit of the cab mount here so I have access. I got to put a little piece in the inner floor here. There we go. You guys can see that. Oh, just don't seem to get the light I want. Okay, so I trimmed that back a bit, got rid of the rusty bits, opened this up. Like I said, 2-piece deal now. This had a little bit of a roll on it here, so I'm going to see if I can find a piece of the old box side and cut like a 3x8 piece about. I'll measure it up to be exact. I'm going to look for a piece that's already got a turned edge on it, and that'll save me the trouble of putting it on. It's just a piece. Cut it size, make sure it fits, clean it up, and basically weld it in. So this is the piece I'm going to use. As you can see, it's already got a rolled edge on it. It's a bit rusty down there, but I think there's going to be enough material between here and there to get the job done. So here's the patch, and it's basically going to sit in there. Just like that. And get the welder out, tack it in. Now these are my inner rocker pieces, and get them cut ready to fit in. Now these are neither store-bought nor homemade. I cut this little piece. This is the rocker extension here, off the chunk I cut off of that pan, if you recall, and I took that to work. Got some 18 gauge sheared to the size I wanted. Gave this and those to one of our NC operators. Say, can you put a little bump on that? And there it is, real nice, pretty much exact. Now I had them made a little long so I could trim them off. And also, if this wasn't quite in the right spot, like if it was bumped up here, you know, then I had the option of, you know, adjusting it. So I cheated a little, but it's time to get these cut and fitted. I got that piece tacked in. I trimmed all this away. This is all I got for a guide, is along here. This is all that's left of the outer rocker in this section. So this is all trimmed back to my my piece I put around the door latch post. So I got to cut this away and this away, and I only have this other little piece to help line things up and put those strips in that I had made. This piece all fitted and clamped in. I didn't want to bore you with all the fiddly cutting and carrying on, but I got it fitting pretty decent. Then I sanded it with 80 grit both sides, wiped it off some thinners, sprayed some weld through primer on the back side just to give it a little something. Get the welder out, get some tacks on here, and then move on to the next piece. Got this piece all cut and fitted and clamped. And if I didn't mention it earlier, I've probably mentioned it before. Just take your time. Don't get overwhelmed. Just a little cut, a little fit, a little cut, fit it, until it gets into where you want it to be. Now fortunately there's no outside portion on here. I can probably get some welds in there on the inside side, as opposed to just welding it across here like I tacked it in down there. And then I just have this little piece, and I think I'll just cut a piece this shape, set it in there and weld it around, and then I'll be able to extend this cab mount out after I install an outer rocker. All one little piece of a puzzle at a time. Okay, so inner rocker all tacked in. As you can see, it's all new all through here. I still got to close up this detail. Not a big deal. I don't know, I might slit it, bend it in, might just cap it. I don't know just yet. But here's the sweet part. Picked up this outer rocker shell for 40 bucks from the supply store, and it's gonna cover everything up. The only thing I gotta do is cut this detail in around the latch post. Can't beat that for 40 bucks. Now before I get started trimming out this panel, I got some work to do here. I gotta cut away some of this rusty bits that's in the way, and down here trim some of this out. Cut the ear off the front fender. Got to get it out of the way because I'm gonna have to rebuild this detail in here. So I'll just chop this out wherever it meets the inner, which is right here. So this whole section out of here below the hinge, so I can get to that like I just said. Now I won't be able to finish this until I work on the door. So I'll be able to do most of this, get the end cap on, whatnot. This little bit right here, I'll have to do that when the doors are off, getting their bottoms done. But there's enough length. I think there's enough length in here. This like stuck out like back here. Actually be able to run this like down the bottom of here even, and replace the material along the bottom edge, it looks like. So I get busy, chop a bit of this away, and then I'll bring you back. Now I was working away, cutting out some of these rusty bits, so I thought I'd share this with you again. I'm sure I've done this before. I just cut this piece out of here, and you can see that this is like, there's nothing left of that, but right here, like an inch away, good material. This whole side of the truck is basically rotted away from the bottom up. Now I got some more of the truck cut away, as you can see. Now I'm not going to pass up the opportunity to weld a bunch of these seams from this side, as opposed to lying underneath the truck and trying to weld them from the other side and dropping, you know, hot welding BBs on myself. I got this set in here. I mentioned before about putting a piece on there, so that's about where it's going to sit. I got it pretty much right where it should be, and this is the piece I was talking about. I probably have to make and put in after. Everywhere there's a purple marker line gets cut away, because I'm starting to turn up here, riding up this slope, so I need to take a ½ inch or so out of there. Down here's the doorpost latch. It's kind of a funky uphill and some curves and stuff, so basically slit and box it out. And then down here, this is the original lap joint from the factory right there, so I'm kind of gonna go with that and cut this section out. Now in order to get this to butt up where I need it to, I gotta lose this section all the way through to the other end, because as you can see, it's an obstruction. Got distracted. I don't know why. I started slitting this instead of that. I may end up actually taking this out, because this isn't actually too bad above this edge here. But I got this all clamped in now and cut away. Everywhere there's an X, I'm gonna drop a sheet metal screw in, and from that point on, those are my permanent locators. Now I ended up taking that piece back out of there. I threw some extra sheet metal screws in right on the edge to hold that down. Looks good. So I just take the grinder and grind this little bit out so that it matches this detail, and then I'm gonna call it quits for today because it's getting hot out. Well, next morning, it rained overnight. I did get that ground out, as you can see. I don't know if I mentioned before, I test fitted the door seals, because now you got a third layer of metal here, and it seems that they're going to fit okay. Down here I need to hammer in this little pocket. This is where the factory overlap actually is between pieces. So, you know, they got to do the same as everybody else and emboss that in so one channel fits inside the other. So I got to hammer that in. This is starting to ride up the hill here a little bit, so I'm thinking this is a little long, maybe take an inch out of that. And this is also riding high as well, so it'll take probably take 3/8 out of there. Trim off what I don't need on the back here, so it'll be like, you know, chopping it off just inside the edge of the cab. I think will be pretty good. Not sure what I'm gonna do with this end yet. because this is actually fairly good, but the right on the back edge here, it's, you know, it's new back in there, but the edge right here is not so good. May have to like trim that up, it's hard to say. And up on the front, I left this sticking out because this curves. So if I had to put this back further, then I wouldn't have metal here. Okay, so it's one of them things you got to watch when you're fitting stuff up. So I'll trim this back so that it matches in here and comes up to basically 0 there. And when I have the panel off again, I can cut all this away out of here. And then once that's all good, I cut this off the parts truck, if you remember. So this has the end cap on it. So I'll be able to cut that away out of there and put that on the end of there. And this section here, it's not quite exactly the same, but I do have this whole section here, even though that has a bit of a bump in it there, I still have all this material to work with. So that was a bit of a long one. Time to get busy. So I marked off some cuts, getting ready to pull this off, but there's one more detail I want to show you guys. This comes out way past the end of the cab. The cab turns around like this, has a radius going on here, but it doesn't start till about right here. Okay, so when I push this panel up, you can see that, you know, it's flat all along this section. So the corner starts right about where the tip of the marker is. Okay, so I'm gonna come back maybe 3/8 of an inch, maybe a half back to here, and I've already marked the end of the cab down here. So I'll basically mark this. I've got that marked. I'll come across like this on an angle, and then I should be off that radius, and I'll be able to weld that, and that'll give me enough room to body fill this detail in. And of course, this is pretty thin metal right here. You know, it's only 20 gauge. That's not much of a step. There's like all this room from here all the way up to this first body detail up here, this line here, to transition 30 thousandths of an inch. Alright guys, let me catch you up on what's going on. Took the outer rocker off. I've either welded these pans or the inner rockers either on the inside or the outside. I just got finished mocking up this little piece here that covers up that opening. Got the floor patch and that all welded in, and I set the truck on fire like 5 times because, let me show you, you can see it, the seam sealer goes all the way back into there. So the seam sealer caught fire, which caught the wiring harness on fire, which caught this panel on fire. So I had to get that all out of the way so I could continue on. Well, had to quit already. Ran out of welding gas, and it's Sunday. My supplier will be open tomorrow. Not a big deal. I'll probably crawl under there, clean up a bunch of those welds. And like I said, tomorrow I'll get a new tank of gas. In the meantime, I can chop away at fitting that in. Now, quick update. Chop that section over there. So I'm back to my pan that I welded in. Surprise, surprise. And down at the other end, before I pulled the patch panel off, I marked this with a paint marker. I might as well take all this rod out. I probably stay about an inch below my marker line, come across, come down, and I'm actually probably slit under here out to the corner. because this is actually a breather hole right there, and I welded all down through there. So that's where my new inner rocker is. So that should get rid of most of the rotted stuff and probably make the panel fit a little better. Now got that all cut away. Like I said, I'm gonna screw this back in, check the fit, probably call it a day. Alright, so it's all stretched, screwed in. Get some welding gas tomorrow, grind up the edges, start welding it in. So went and picked up some gas. It quit raining. I got this all screwed in. I got my plug weld spots all punched out with the punch flange tool. It's all screwed down, ground out around where all the weld seams are. Once I get all this plug welded in and welded around so this is secure, I'm gonna have to pound this down along this edge to get this to come down just a little bit, because it's not an exact fit, and I keep saying that. I can't say that enough. Aftermarket panels don't fit 100%. So let's get started. Alright, so I got this clamped. I'm going to plug weld these. Now, I can't tell you how to set up your welder. It's one of them things you just have to do, okay? But for this type of application, I'm going to be plug welding all these spots, so I want it to burn in and penetrate. So I've got the welder turned up. But when I get over to here, going around this detail, I'm going to be stitch welding this all together. So I'm going to turn the welder back down so that I can get a nice clean stitch, easy to grind. Okay? Okay, let's have a little look at the backside. As you can see, that penetrated quite nicely through to the backside, almost like a spot weld, because that's what you're trying to represent. So I'm going to keep clamping this up, and I'm going to work from side to side till I get to each end, and then move to the top side. Flange all plug welded, screws out, those holes filled. I'm going to turn the welder down, move to the top side, get some tacks on here, and here, and here, and down there. Hammer that down, turn the welder back up, and plug weld these holes. Okay, so you can see just working that edge with a metal plate and a decent sized hammer, pushing it down in to a couple passes, and if I like the way it's down in, clamp this and plug weld it. Now that helped quite a bit, pounding that edge down. I'm going to start in the middle, about, same deal, clamp it, weld this one, move over here, weld this one, move over here, weld this one. You get the idea. Time to get back at it. It's been a couple of days. When I left off, rainstorm blew in, so I had to like throw some quick aerosol primer on there and then tape up all the seams with some red tape there to get that peeled off, get some of this sanded back so I can get to the weld seams again and carry on. Oh, and by the way, I've been eyeing up a door on Marketplace to replace this door right here with the driver's back door. and Buddy just dropped it from 150 bucks down to 75. That's it over there. Score and a half. The only thing I got to do to that door. It's got a few dents in it, other than change the color, clean up a few dents. The only thing that's wrong with that door is around this latch area here, where this one is like completely gone. Just needs shot with some sandblast material, and it'll be good to go. Okay, so little 2x3 section here I'm gonna have to cut out, throw a little patch in. This area is now all welded in. I didn't just do like a tack every 1/4 inch like I did on my red truck. I actually finished all the seam all the way around till I got down to here, and then it started stepping out. My patch didn't work out so great. This corner has been heavily bodyworked before. Should have probably replaced this whole piece before I put the rocker in, but it is tacked in. It is solid. With this, after I get it ground up, I'll lay a fiberglass resin and cloth patch over this whole area, and that will take care of that. You can see everywhere I welded, except for up beyond there, it's all ground up, and all the areas where welding was done, get a coat of this stuff. And like I mentioned earlier, back here is gonna get a fiberglass patch. So I'll do that first, and then while that's hardening up, I'll coat all the other seams. This is all roughed in with the 80 grit, even down here, all around the latch, down the sill here, the patch on the back. It's nice. I wipe this down with some wax and grease remover, give it another little shot of aerosol primer, and then I can move back to the underside and finish off those cab mounts. Okay, so inners, outers, rocker panels in, rough body work done, new door on. It's going to conclude this video. Next video, gonna finish off the cab mounts. So till then, peace.